The 12th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.
Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news. Once again, from the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, here is your host, Kathy Wyatt.
The deepest craving of human nature is the need to be appreciated. A quote by William James, it's a theory founded on two simple words: thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, the power of gratitude, in this case, in the workplace. Here to talk more about it are April Kelly, an Omaha author, and Carrie Kerlin, owner of Process to Profit Incorporated. Thanks to both of you for joining us.
Thanks for
having
having
us. To the program. April, we'll start with you. Before we talk about the book, let's talk a little bit about you. Give us kind of a snapshot of your life.
Oh, thank you. I am an Omaha resident for 17 years, and I grew up in Colorado. I have two teenagers here in the metro area, and I have actively been in the .com industry for the last 10 years. I started with PayPal in April of 2000 and helped start their service center, and then started with LinkedIn in October of 2006. And I'm really proud to be part of Silicon Prairie, and I have a deep passion for teams and building mission and culture and vision.
Well, obviously so, because all of that evolved into a book.
Absolutely.
Tell us about the moments that really inspired you to write the book, and then we'll go into a little bit more about what it is about.
Great. Gratitude at Work has been a labor of love based on a lot of my experiences in cultivating and developing teams. I usually can get teams to perform at outstanding levels with very little turnover, and I kept getting asked, how do you do it? What are you doing differently? And in the process of that, I was able to hone in on, wow, I'm good at recognizing and appreciating when people meet or exceed my expectations, and thus Gratitude at Work was born.
Okay, and outline the book for us a little bit. What are some of the major issues that you're hitting in there?
Well, some of the things I think we take for granted, I have outlined in the book, that the stopping to be precise and consistent in your messaging and making sure that you are communicating properly what your goals are, and then being flexible enough to take in feedback from your team and alter your course with the end vision still in sight. So I really bring it back to the baseline, and where you think people might take for granted that you do recognize and appreciate them, go out of your way. Take the time, make it personal, make it exceptional to what they have done specifically, and take the time to say thank you. And I also give you lots of tips and tricks in the book that you can use in the workplace today.
Okay, and with all due respect, I mean, that sounds fine and good, but there are obviously people who still aren't practicing this particular theory. Why do you think that is?
You're absolutely right. I think a lot of people don't practice gratitude because they may consider it a weakness. They also put it in the basket of kindness. And when it comes to being kind, I think actually that's a strength. And people are starting to realize, wow, I don't have money for incentives or to purchase things or maybe to give promotional items. What else can I do to incent? Gratitude is a great way of doing that. And it's okay to be a little kind, and it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female, it really works for both. What makes it powerful is if you know the people or the person that you're recognizing, what excites them, what motivates them, how have you cultivated that relationship. So showing gratitude, it could be in the form of a car wash or a cake, and it could have all those parameters. So it's very powerful when it's done appropriately.
Doesn't some of this, though, boil down to personality? I mean, there are some people who it just seems to come naturally to want to thank someone, to want to show gratitude. And there are others, as you say, who may perceive it as an area to improve or something along those lines. But if you talk to employees, they'd say, that's not my boss. There's no way that we would ever receive any kind of note of appreciation. So what is your advice there? How do you get people to turn the corner to really understand that?
Yes, it is a personality trait for some people. And For people who are just starting and to get comfortable with it, I would really encourage them to start a gratitude journal, which is exactly like it sounds. Start writing about your own personal things that you are grateful for, and you can do it in the morning to start your day in the privacy of your own home. Just write down 2 or 3 things that you're really grateful for, or end your day that way. And get comfortable with tuning into that part of who you are inside. And I think as it evolves and you start to feel centered, you'll feel more comfortable in sharing that with others. And generally, when people think about the last time they wrote a thank you card or a card in general, they'll think about how they felt when they were writing it. Hopefully that will encourage them to take that step, because imagine if you do have a boss that steps out of character and does send a thank you note, or it could even be a voicemail. One night I stayed late and I sent every single staff member a voicemail with a very specific reason for my gratitude towards them. And it could have been their energy, their efforts. Maybe it's just the fact that they've always got a spring in their step and they're willing to help others. It doesn't always have to be about a number. It could be an attitude of gratitude.
And Carrie can certainly attest to that. She is kind of a walking testimonial for this whole theory. Tell us a little bit about you first, and then we'll talk about your professional.
Well, I'm a single mom. I live in Gretna. I own my own company. I have 2 boys, 18 and 13. My background primarily consists of human resource management consulting. As I've gone through in my career and broadened, I've realized that there is more to the numbers and the people than most accountants realize. And so I've started to broaden my career with the financial side and incorporated it with the HR consulting side, because if you have positive employees, if you have empowered employees, you have profitability. I mean, that's just a given.
Okay, give us some 4 examples on that.
Well, I mean, if you're speaking of, it's a given in any industry that the human resource person does the touchy-feely, the way to go, thank you. But if you have a president of a company or even a top-level senior director of a company walk around and actually thank you, not just technically, but personally, it involves that person. It makes them now feel like they're a part of the company, they're a part of the department, they're not just a do-or-be. And with the generational changes as we're coming, it's no longer you have that career, that work ethic of I sign your check and do your job and shut up. And as the generations come in and we're getting into that more multi-generational, this generation needs that empowerment, that involvement, and that appreciation. And yes, I did test it. I'm also the director of a medical software company, wherein we were staffing low on the quality end of it, and we pulled 3 other people from different departments to help in the quality. And it's a software quality, so it's not really something you can just jump in and help. I picked one person after April had approached me about introducing her book, Love Her to Death. And so I thought, well, I'll just take this one person out of the 3 that don't know nothing about what they're doing, and I gave him verbals, way to go, and I really appreciate you looking at, because he was an IT administrator, certainly not in his box. Way to go, and it wasn't just technically, nice job, thanks for working everything you can. It was, you are really doing a spectacular job with really stepping out of here and still prioritizing your own workload. We really appreciate it as a member of executive staff. And he excelled, I think it was like 3 times faster on the production of test scripts than the other 2 did. And I mean, to me, it was because he got that attention. And it wasn't anything other than me walking by his desk, really noticing that he cared about that connection and that appreciation. He felt empowered.
April, is there ever any concern that there might be too many thank yous to a point where they almost become insincere or commonplace, that they almost lose their meaning?
I think that you certainly run the risk of overusing gratitude, and I think timing and understanding the person who's receiving it. So it's something you do day after day, and you always do it at 9 a.m. in the morning, and people are accustomed to it. You will build a certain thick skin where it will not be as meaningful. So I do think it's important that you are specific, you understand who the receiver is, what excites them. Some people may like an expression of gratitude in front of everyone, and some people may prefer a much more private measure of gratitude. You need to have built that relationship with the person or people that are receiving it. I had a service representative actually make an error The minute she caught it, she brought it to my attention, and we approached the customer and we made it right. It cost us some money, but she owned up to it. And the customer was so impressed that she sent me a letter on letterhead telling me how great it was to have such an honest and ethical service experience and how that was so unique. And I knew this service representative was very young, but also very outgoing. And in our team meeting, I acknowledged her and presented her with a copy of that letter framed. And to this day, it's about 10 years later, she still has that letter framed and in her office, and it was a very interesting turning point for her. And she also practices gratitude in her management skills now.
Well, and you've both mentioned that whole idea of individual. You know, look at the individual. What does he or she need to feel appreciated? And by looking specifically at them, then you can tailor your gratitude correctly, accordingly.
Yes.
To that.
And as you acknowledge more, it creates a team. Everyone wants to succeed and they want to meet or exceed expectations, and that's when your performance really increases. Business is all about improving the bottom line. When you're using gratitude and you've got high performing teams, you have very low, if any, turnover, people are happy to come to work, absenteeism is low, that all affects the bottom line. There's really no lose on the case of gratitude.
Okay, so Carrie, from a realistic standpoint, for someone who may be watching this program thinking, all right, I might try to buy into this a little bit, how do they get started? Talk to us about the process that you utilize to keep your staff motivated and going.
Watch what, because your people, I mean, if you think about it, you spend hours and hours trying in a relationship building on a personal basis. But if you think about it, you're at work more than you're ever at home. So why not put that same investment on a place where you're at all day long to ensure that you not only enjoy what you do, but who you do it with. So you watch your surroundings. I mean, a good manager isn't just a doer or a leader, but they're a watcher, and they manage to their environment. And so you manage with part of your environment should be your people. It shouldn't just be your money. It shouldn't just be the expenses or the income. Those people are your profit. And if you watch what they are, then you can lead them appropriately, each of them.
Excuse me, you mentioned something earlier, empowerment. I mean, that is huge. Talk to us a little bit more about empowerment.
Well, and it comes with education. If you know, the more you give to your employees gratitude-wise, I really appreciate you doing this because this is how you affected this. You educate them on their effect of their involvement in the big picture. You've then educated them and allowed them to feel like they're a part of this growing company, this profitable company, especially in times right now. And by doing that, you've empowered them, because then it's human nature. I mean, business is a lot like parenting. It's human nature to get up and want to be passionate about something. There's not many just doer bees out in the world. We want to get up and we want to make a difference, and we want to go home at the end of the day and feel like we have made a difference. And you can't do that if you don't give them the verbal feedback of how they've affected you in the department, their team players, the company overall. It gives them that feeling of connection.
April, talk to us a little bit about, in light of a 5% unemployment rate in Nebraska, talk to us, we have a lot of businesses, great and small out there right now, who are hammering away at strategic plans, trying to figure out, you know, how are we going to survive in the short term, but more importantly, what are we going to be looking ahead to do in the long run? Now, this is obviously something that they would want to incorporate, according to you, into that plan. If you could kind of walk us through that a little bit, because I'm quite certain that the majority of folks are really looking into that, specifically at this time when we are in the economy that we're experiencing. We do have a younger generation who sometimes is going to be a little bit different to manage than perhaps other generations. Not everyone, but some. So how would you suggest that folks work this in so that they are successful in their planning, short-term and long-term?
You hit on some really important areas. We are in an interesting economic time. It's a great challenge for all of us. The good news I have is gratitude doesn't cost you anything, and it's something you can tap into today. But on a larger scale, relatively speaking with the rest of the country, Nebraska's unemployment is not as great, and that means we have to do something different to retain our very best workers And you're also being asked to grow with existing staff, usually. It means you're not going to add headcount, but we want you to do more. So how do you do that? And I would encourage you, gratitude is a great baseline to work off of. If you can plug in, build those relationships, cultivate more loyalty amongst your employees, that will help enhance performance. Again, speaking to what Carrie had referred to about watching, building the relationships, taking the time to understand. When people know that they are contributing to a much bigger process and that they're being successful, they want to continue to be a part of that process, and it will raise the overall performance. And as you are growing your teams and your talent, to retain that talent, Google's a fine representation of that. They provide a lot of nice cultural things and amenities to retain their employees, to keep them happy. And it's out of gratitude that they want them to go the extra mile without thinking about it. Therefore, the company is also very accommodating. Gratitude can help you bridge that area, and I would really encourage everyone who's doing a strategic plan to empower their management teams and their leadership. Tap into this. What can you do to understand what makes your team tick? What will motivate them? How can we reward them for keeping us solvent and profitable, especially in these times?
It sounds simple enough, but the reality is when we kick into reactionary mode, which is what's happening in light of the economy, something like this gets backburnered because we are so focused on the numbers, we're so focused on the here and now and what can we be doing to meet this particular need, that would tend, I would think, that team meeting you were supposed to have may be overshadowed by a kind of an emergency meeting to talk about where we are with the budget, for example. Speak to that, because I know that's happening where people are very well intended. They want to implement things the way that Carrie has done, and they're thinking that's all fine and good for that organization, but for us, we're worried about more important things right now.
Certainly. I face that in my current work situation. If I'm going to have a meeting, I'm going to lose so many hours of productivity, and it's a choice that you have to make. Why not share part of that process with the people you're meeting with? Let them know they are part of it, but they are important enough that you're going to schedule this time with them. And it could be in gratitude, it could be for training, but at the end of the day, the message is we care about you, we invest in you. The amount of capital and goodwill we put in our people to get them to be productive is important. When you send the message that, oh, well, we're not going to do this meeting because other things are more important, all of a sudden that human factor gets devalued, and that's just the opposite of what you want to see happen. Invest in them, let them know, hey, we're going to lose some productivity time, but it's more important for your mental health, for the well-being of this department. We need this time, and do it in gratitude.
Absolutely. If you schedule it, just like any other meeting, it makes it seem, and is, just as important as every other meeting. You hit that very, very well. Carrie, anything you'd like to add?
Oh, tremendously. On a business aspect, for every employee, I mean, it's important that a business not realize, oh, hard time, let's lay off 20 people. For every new person you bring on, it costs the business about $7,000 of non-revenue generating expenses. And when you look at those facts, because you got the time of other people down, and when you evaluate those costs, you have to honestly, and sometimes it boggles me why we capitalize, in your book references human capitalization, we capitalize a computer and we depreciate it over 3 years. We capitalize our couches and the non-materialistic thing, but the brain power and the talent and the technique and the personalities that we invest so much money in should be a balance sheet item as well. I mean, these are people, and our businesses couldn't run without that. So if we were to truly see the value of the human capital on that balance sheet, maybe more operators or business leaders would pay more attention to it and give a little bit more. And it's, again, I go back to it, most people think it's that fluff factor, and it's not. It is the good old-fashioned thank you, you know?
That's a great segue, because I wanted to ask you about the chapter in your book, Humanitarian Capitalism.
Yes.
Obviously a reason that you put that in there. Talk to us a little bit about where you were in your process when you were writing that and putting that together.
It's really twofold. As Carrie had touched on, it's about what are you investing in your people? And I'm not just talking about salary and health and dental benefits. I'm talking about training. You expect a lot from them. What are you doing to help them better themselves inside as well as outside of work? Are you providing training and educational opportunities? Are you really investing in them as a person as well as an employee? And then second is being a good corporate citizen. This is high on my list. We benefit from the neighborhoods and the communities that we live in, and I think that obligates us to give something back to the community. And sometimes that's done directly or indirectly. One of the most successful incentive programs I have ever done was with a team, and I took the money I would normally put into maybe doing a luncheon, and I gave all the team members a grocery card, and we had a contest, and I sent them to a local grocer, and I said, see who can buy the largest quantity of groceries with your cards, and we're going to have a contest, and then the proceeds from that were donated to the local food bank. And we got so much energy, and it was such a nice way of giving back to the community, and it's amazing the level of energy heightens when the focus is not on you, but it's on doing well for others, and again, it's based on gratitude.
Yeah, outreach, stewardship, definitely two very, very important ways to go about things. And that's not limited to big companies, small companies. I mean, it can be any organization. Now, there might be some folks who are thinking, that's great, but we would need a coordinator. We would need somebody who's going to be able to put all of that together. Do we really have the resources? Your response?
Absolutely. I did it with a team of about 30 people, and if we can do it on a shoestring, anyone can do it. And remember, the recipient, they don't care how you get to the end result, and they will know no different. The people will rally behind it, and they will also see that it's not just about the company, and they will enjoy being a part of the process and helping those around them.
Right, and learning more about maybe another nonprofit organization and the people within and their mission, and who knows, may wind up going back time and time again to help them out. Carrie, any examples that you can think of within your organizations where you have provided outreach to the community and what that has done for your organizations in general?
Well, and financially speaking, I mean, there's a lot of different smaller examples, but yeah, it's the food for the food bank. But it takes a manager to pull his team together and say, or his or her team, and say, this is what we'd like to do. Any ideas? I mean, there are people out there that are quiet sometimes with their with their passion on the side of the nonprofit or the fundraising. They would step up and volunteer the coordination of something like that in a heartbeat, but you'd never know that because they're the quiet one in the corner just doing their job. So, you know, you look outside that box and you ask for who has the talents to do that, and if you do have a budget constraint, then you just make everybody aware, and I can assure you if enough people are interested in doing that or care about that, they will find it in their hearts and in their time to do that.
Excellent. Now, April, I'm curious as to what's on the horizon for you. You have this book out now. You know, what are you looking ahead to do to make a difference when it comes to impacting organizations like Carrie's with your theory?
Thank you for asking. I obviously hope people will purchase the book, and it's a pretty light read. I think if you take a look at it, it's probably a day and a half if you're a voracious reader, and if you're not, it may take you a couple of days. But I'm hoping to really incent people to give gratitude a try. It takes just a very small amount of effort, and you'd be surprised. It's kind of like a drop of water falling into a puddle. If you'll just take that first step, the ripple effects that you can have throughout an organization is tremendous. I will be speaking locally as well as nationally on the topic of gratitude. And it is very popular right now, which is refreshing. Companies are looking for inexpensive or ways that they can motivate without spending a lot of money. And I would love to help them look inside and use gratitude to make that happen.
You know, Carrie, I want to go back and thank you to something that we talked about earlier, and that is this up and coming generation and the challenges that we seem to be facing with, again, not all of them, but some of them. And I want to also talk about that generation working with the older generation, because you are really at two opposite ends of the spectrum here. And to thank this individual versus thanking this individual, I mean, we talked about different approaches earlier, but this really is quite different. And when you put these generations together, it's very, very interesting to see what happens with them.
Yeah, and I'm in a conundrum about a lot of different things. There's a large corporation, and I won't mention their name, that's actually incorporating a policy allowing their employees to have at least 2 hours of Twitter time and social networking time, because the new generation, you know, that's what they do. They're going to need that, and if we don't put a constraint on it, they're just going to do it. I mean, so we're getting into this new generation where the financial pieces are the entitlement, and I'm not making any cross statements about it, but if my mother were working at the same place that my son would be working, she would never miss a day over a sick child or a sickness at all. My son would be like, well, hey, you know, it's kind of expected. I should have a couple days a year sickness. And it's just a work ethic. It's a multi-generational, you know, and I think actually 6 months ago they were thinking about incorporating naps for this new generation coming up. So those are the kinds of things where my generation, I'm sitting here going, how are you going to put $1 to that? But on the opposite, you have to manage to that. You know, you cannot change a work ethic, but you still have a business to run and a profit to make. So, you know, these types of things, I would rather the entitlement be appreciation and empowerment than it be a $2,000 signing bonus for asking your friend to come work at the same place you were at.
Well, I would imagine, yeah, the dynamic there is dramatically different, but the morale issue is something that would come into play, because you do have this older generation who is, you know, their mindset is much different, seeing these rewards and these perks and these, you know, we talked earlier, entitlements and so forth. How is that impacting the morale for that generation? And then you have to plan accordingly. Oh no, now I have to please everybody kind of thing. So you as an HR person, really very challenged. Any leader is going to be very challenged. Advice to them?
Well, again, get to know the personality. I mean, the HR field in and of itself is getting difficult to even manage small businesses with, because the constraints coming from the federal and the state regulation, you know, you're limited to cross the Roslin Act with the accrual and the sick. I mean, the regulations are anyway doing business. You either have the HR person that pushes the paper and never leaves her cube, or you have the HR person that truly gets to appreciate the people in the resource. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you look to the personalities, and then you feed and you drive to those, what would take that generation. I mean, if as a mother I would know that my son's generation would come from you know, the verbal comments to that. He really gets a kick out of knowing, ooh, this is my second job, and I know I'm doing a good job. They didn't have to pay him anything extra to do that, but he feels better about getting up and going to work. It just watching and running with that.
Well, the book is called Gratitude at Work, and for more information you can log on to the website gratitudeacademy.com. And thank you both for joining us very much. We appreciate it. Thank you for watching. We will see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at untv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours.
The 12th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.